funky. Get a little funky on Holy Saturday. Hey everybody, welcome to Quarantined with Comics. I'm Matt.
And I'm Eliana.
And it's Saturday again. So I've come to count my time in quarantine by how many shows we've done. I've lost track of time.
Yeah, me too.
So
it's been like a few years, like for me sometimes.
And we feel like we're trapped in our home, and it's been
Yeah.
years. But we know that it's been a month because we've done 4 of these. This will be our 4th one.
Yeah.
So every Saturday we're doing one. So it's been a month. It's pretty crazy. I'm wearing a Darth Vader shirt today, in case anybody was keeping track. Eliana, what are you wearing? Strawberries?
Strawberries.
No. That's not what that says.
It's not strawberries, but like it has that. I don't know what it's But I just like the strawberries on it.
Yes, and they're very nice. They're very pleasant. How are you today?
I'm good.
It's kind of nice outside.
Yeah.
Not like the thunderstorm of our second show. That was pretty intense.
Yeah.
So today, for our Easter Eve show, we're going to do probably a shorter show than what we normally do. And we may keep this format, maybe not do as many comics. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to start with Strayed, number 3. Over the past couple weeks, I've been doing Strayed. And so 2 weeks ago, I covered the first one. Last week, I covered the second one, so I figured I would cover the third one. Today, there are only 5. And so this is one of my favorites of the series. If you remember, Lou, our astral traveling cat, has been searching for the beings who made the flowers, which is now the power source that the Earthlings want the most, because they're perfectly balanced and organic, and they provide a massive amount of power. So with the flowers that they already have, they can already sustain themselves for centuries upon centuries. But because people of Earth are typically so greedy, they want not only to find all of the flowers, they want to find the beings who make the flowers, because these flowers were created genetically by these beings. And so they're looking for them. So they keep sending poor Lou, the astral traveling cat, out to see if he can locate the planet that these beings exist on. So something very strange happens to Lou. He is dreaming, and the being that has made the flowers comes to him in a dream and communicates with him. And then he is also able to communicate with him when he's in his astral body. So Lou has never had that happen before. He's never seen by the beings of the various planets that he's out looking for. They can't see him or communicate with him. But this being is highly advanced and can not only see Lou, but communicate with Lou through telepathy. So we find out that his name, I think it's like Alex or something like that. And I'll show you what he looks like. Well, he's on the cover. So that's him on the cover. Here's another picture of him. They're highly advanced. And he's the only one left of his kind. What happened was, 10,000 years ago, these beings were just like the people of Earth, and they became greedy, and they were conquering other worlds and destroying the beings that inhabited those worlds. So they learned a very valuable lesson. But at one point, the other beings came and attacked them and destroyed their world and the rest of the people. And this being was sent away by his family to survive and to one day sort of make amends for the terrible things that those people did to all the other creatures throughout the galaxy. And so he has contacted Lou to give him a warning that the people of Earth are making the same mistake as they made. And so that's where we stand. When Lou comes back from communicating with this being, well, first, I'm sorry, let me step back. The being tells him what is really happening, that he's being sent out, and that once he locates these planets in these worlds, that the government is going in and killing all the other beings on the planets and taking over and colonizing the other worlds. And Lou cannot believe it, and he cannot believe that his owner would lie to him and let that happen. But she's being forced to. It's not really her fault. And so Lou gets upset because this being tells him that, and he can't believe it. And so he travels to all the worlds that he traveled to before to see if it's true. And it is true. But he's done so many, he's traveled so much astrally, if that's a word, that when he gets back, he's so sick and it took so much energy out of him that he collapses. And they have to take care of him. They call for medics to come in, and he's in critical condition. And that's where the comic book ends. The other thing that's happening with the comic book is the main bad guy, who is, I think his name is Premier Peely. He has just gone to the Council of Elders to get an extension on his position for one more year to fulfill what he is dreaming of, what his goals are. He's been lying to them this whole time and keeping from them every detail of their mission except for very small parts, because they would not back him if they knew that he was doing such terrible things to the rest of the galaxy. So he is tricking them into allowing him to continue to be in his appointed position. So he gets an extension. So that's where we're at with issue 3 of Strayed. It's a good one. Okay, Eliana, you're up.
Okay, so my comic book is Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I picked this up because we're actually watching it on Hulu, and it's a really good series. I really like it. But in this comic book, the beginning. It's about the past, because there's a Slayer, which is pretty much whoever is a Slayer. They kill vampires and stuff like that, and they try to keep the master away and everything like that. Anyway, so it's this person who was an Indian princess was a Slayer, and she had she dies, and every single time a Slayer dies, there's a new Slayer that's born, and so she dies, and Buffy, she's been having dreams about this person, and she didn't know who it was, and she was thinking, oh, it's just probably a weird dream like everyone has. But just every single time she dreams about something similar like that, there's always this creepy looking vampire master person thing, and pretty much she goes to school, and then all of a sudden there's this person who just comes up to her, and she's like, hey, are you pretty much just it's pretty much they say, hey, you're a Slayer. This you don't know about anything. You should technically by now know everything, how to train, how to fight them, but she doesn't know anything. So she's and then it takes her a minute to oh, okay. So then they have to go to a cemetery and wait, and she has cheerleading practice, and she's kind of mad about that. But she has to wait, and then for like this person to like rise up from the dead, because this like in the beginning, this person apparently dies because there's this monster who killed them. That's kind of cool, I guess. And then so they wait for her to rise, and then after that, I think like they kill him, and like they don't know what to do. But apparently Buffy like just immediately goes into action, holds up like a cross, like, which is like something that vampires don't like, and then eventually kills him.
Wow. Cool.
I really like it. I love
Let me ask you a question. Who's your favorite character on Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
If I'm going from Hulu and stuff like that, I don't know. It either has to be Angel, Xander, Willow,
Giles.
Giles, yeah. And like I like all of them. I just like them for like all their because they just are all different.
Yeah.
Personalities.
I think Giles may be my favorite.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. Very good. I guess I'm up next. Next on my list is Conan the Barbarian. This is issue 11. This is the new Conan series that's being put out by Marvel. I am a Conan fan from way back in the day.
Way back when.
Way back in the day, I started reading Conan in the 80s. And of course, there was the famous movie that came out with Arnold Schwarzenegger as Conan. But I was reading the large Savage Sword of Conan's that I showed you last week or a couple weeks ago. I can't remember.
I don't know.
But I loved those. I loved those. So, anybody who knows anything about Conan knows that he's always talking about his god. His god's name is Crom. I think that's how you say it. But anyway, he's always, saying, like swearing using Crom's name, like by Crom, blah blah blah. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's always like saying if something bad is happening, he like lets out his name. But anyway, so the interesting thing about this God is that he has nothing to do with his people. Like, people don't pray to him, he doesn't interfere with their lives, so, there's like no connection. It's not like other people who worship their God or have any type of relationship with them. He's pretty cold. And so that sort of plays into the way Conan was brought up and why he's such a brutal barbarian, because he just doesn't care. He just is just brutal. So Conan in this series has become king. Now there's a lot of spoilers here, so if you are reading this series and you haven't reached this comic book, you might want to move ahead or stop watching. So Conan has become king, and there is this witch. I forget what she's called. Red something that has to do with blood. Who has been after him for a while because she's trying to resurrect her god, and his name is Raziel or Razazel, something like that. He's a blood god, and so the only way to resurrect him is by spilling Conan's blood because he's such a powerful person that they think that his blood will be enough to raise this god from the dead. And along the way, she has a couple children that she's raising. And at some point, Conan tries to, like, almost chops her head off. And so now she's, like, undead, and she's walking around with her head, like, half off, which is crazy. But the children are still, like, they're evil, and they're, like, trying to get Conan. And so eventually, Conan is tricked into going into this temple, and there's a big battle that's happening, and the children sneak up and stab Conan like twice with swords, like, I can't remember whether it's in the chest or in the back. Okay? This is in the last episode that this happens. And then part of the temple collapses on top of him. So at the end of issue 10, the issue before this, you think Conan's dead, like gone forever. And so you're kind of like, if you've been reading Conan for, 30, 40 years, you're kind of devastated because you think Conan's dead. Like, how are they going to carry on with this? And so you get to this episode, and all of a sudden, Conan is a boy in his homeland at the base of the mountain, and he is like, "What is happening?" And so he fights with his parents against these invaders, and then sees the mountain and decides that his destiny lies in the mountain. So he starts to climb the mountain. And as he climbs the mountain doesn't want him to be there. And so it's fighting back. First he faces an avalanche, then he faces wild beasts that like take him down to the base of the mountain again. So he's battling his way up this mountain. It takes a really long time. And as he is moving up the mountain, he's getting older and older. Then he gets to the top of the mountain. And for the first time in all of the history of Conan that I'm aware of, he comes face to face with Crom, the god of his people. Until then, you don't even know if this god is real or not, or whether it's just like a fairy tale or a fantasy that they've been making up all of these years. And so he comes face to face with this god, and he's told that he has died. And so, as a result of his dying, he's brought back to his original village to live out eternity that way. And Conan is ticked off. He is like, because he knows that he learns that when this other blood god rises, it will take over and cause all sorts of problems for his people that are still living and cause destruction. And it'll be like hell on earth for all of the people that all of his people that he's left behind. And so he's pretty much confronting his God, saying, how can you do this to people? How can you abandon your people? And the God is cold and distant, and he's like, it'll rain for, so long, thousands of years or so. And then another God will rise up. It's all part of it. No big deal. I don't give a crap. And so Conan, being Conan, won't accept that because he's super stubborn. And so he fights against the god. And the god's like whipping him around like he's a fly. But Conan persists and fights against him. And Crom finally is like, you're so stubborn and you're bothering me so much. I'm going to grant you your wish and send you back. But your punishment will be that you'll grow old and you won't be able to fight. You'll be like a shadow of your like current self. You'll lose all your strength. You'll become weak. So he'll live to a very old age, and that will be his punishment for not accepting the fact that he's dead and is now like in the afterlife. And so by the end of this episode, Conan is back and he is going to kick some butt. So we don't know what that's going to look like yet. Well, I do, but the other people. And so this is him coming back to life and busting out of the rubble, and he's ready to fight for his people. So that's that comic book. I have to tell you a funny story about this. I don't like spoilers when I'm getting ready to read a comic book, and I've been reading this whole entire series. And I went to my local comic book shop to pick this up, knowing that Conan was dead. And I was super excited to read the next issue. So I pick it up off the wall. I go up to the register to pay for it. And this guy, I really like him. he works at this comic shop. I think he manages it. But he's like, oh, this is a great issue. Conan finally comes face to face with his god Crom. I was like, what? How could you tell me that? It's like the biggest event in like Conan history. And I was like, are you killing me? Oh my gosh. And so I was devastated. I was like, whoa, man, what are we going to do? And so then I went home and read it. It was still cool, but could have been a little bit cooler. Oh well, what are we going to do? Okay, so that's that book. Now, at this time, I believe we have a special guest. We have had this special guest before, but we decided to bring her back for a couple reasons. One, she's entertaining and crazy. Number two, we're in quarantine and we only have a handful of guests to choose from. And we can't get Aldana usually out of bed by the time we're filming these, so she hasn't been on the show yet. So we would like at this time to welcome back my lovely, beautiful daughter and Eliana's beautiful sister, Abigail Smith.
Heyo.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
You're on.
So this is the comic book I chose was Space Battle Lunchtime, and it's about this girl. Her name is Peony. I mean, yeah. And she's from Earth, and she was just working at her job, and then this frog-looking woman comes in and orders some coffee and she was like, can you cook? And she's like, yeah, I can make some desserts. And she was like, do you want to come with me to this, would you like to come with me to this, out of this world, competition, a baking competition? She's like, yeah, sure. And she thought it was just going to be themed like that. But she actually takes her to this spaceship in outer space, and the actual, like, competition is kind of like Chopped, where they have this mystery ingredient that they have to cook with, and she's dealing with people that are, well, not people, beings that are phenomenal at cooking, like chefs and stuff, and she has to go up against them and win, and they left off right when she was about to start the competition, but yeah, and she doesn't know any of these ingredients because she's from Earth, and these are wild ingredients.
So
And yeah.
this is like a cosmic, the interdimensional cooking competition?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It should work.
Huh. Well, that's very good, Abigail. Thanks for that review. Now, how have you been doing during this quarantine? How are you holding up with all of this?
Get off me. Pretty good. You know.
Yeah. Pretty good.
Good as it's gonna get.
What are you doing to pass the time? What types of things are you doing?
Scootering. A lot of scootering.
You scooter out front by yourself.
Oh,
Not with the neighbor kids, because you're not allowed to be around them.
You're quarantined, and don't
Yeah.
want to get people sick.
Now Hyde County is considered a hotspot, so we're gonna have to tighten it up even. But there's still Xbox, and there's still The Simpsons.
And there's still Sonia.
There's still
Okay,
Sonia.
You're so cute.
Okay. Well, thanks for stopping by, Abigail.
Thanks for having me.
We're gonna carry on with the show now. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
I'm sure you'll be back soon, unless the quarantine's over, and then we'll have some other special guests. We'll have you back. Don't worry.
Okay.
Okay, Eliana, I'm gonna do mine, and you're gonna finish up, and be the last review, and then we'll show our pick of the week, cover pick of the week. First, I'd like to talk about this quilt, or this tapestry. I don't know what you would call it.
Tapestry.
It's our background. This is handmade in Guatemala, and it shows various types of rituals, Mayan rituals, which is pretty cool. There's like volcanoes, there's the sun, there's different candles and rituals that take place. And there's a whole bunch of these that show different aspects to current Mayan traditions, which is it's a lot of cool. It's a lot of fun. So that's our backdrop. I just thought I'd highlight that. There's the sun up there behind me, and there's the volcanoes above my head, and there's a ritual going on right there, and there's all kinds of cool stuff happening here. It's big. It's giant. It covers the entire wall. The entire wall. Okay, Eliana. Or no, I'm up. I'm up. My last comic is another Jim Henson's The Storyteller. This is part of the Witches series. This is tale 2 of 4. So this is another very interesting comic book. You can see it's sideways. So, normally you have your comic book and you would read it.
Yeah.
But this is
Like
sideways.
Yeah, it's like vertical.
Vertical.
Horizontal.
Horizontal. Right. It's not vertical, it's horizontal. And the entire comic book is like that.
That's cool.
So they do really interesting comics, and they think out of the box, and it's a lot of fun, and it's different than anything you're used to. So this story is from a Japanese folklore and tradition. What happens is every winter, people go up into the mountain to get wood for fires. And so a young boy and his grandfather are going up into the mountain to gather wood, and a snowstorm comes. And so they are trying to get down off of the mountain in time to get out of this storm, but they're not able to get down quick enough. They happen upon an old shelter that was made, but it hasn't been lived in for a long time. But it's enough to protect them to get them through the night. While they're in the shelter, the old man tells the boy a story about the winter witch that lives on the mountain. And the winter witch will come during snowstorms and will curse the people that it comes along, and they will be cursed or killed, one or the other. If they survive, then they have terrible things happen to them for the rest of their life. So they fall asleep after the old man tells that story, and the little boy wakes up in the middle of the night and looks over, and the witch is on top of the old man, and she is stealing his soul. So his soul is like a little light that comes out, and she comes out of his mouth and goes into her mouth, and he dies. And so she looks over and sees the little boy watching, and she says to the little boy, "If you ever speak my name or tell this tale, then," I forget how she phrases it, "he will have trouble in his life and he will be punished in some way." So he goes down and he's faithful to his promise that he will not talk about that event that happened on the mountain. And so time passes and he grows up. And in the meantime, the winters in the village get worse and worse and last longer. They extend into spring, they start in autumn, and it's very difficult on the people. And so at one point, a young woman is coming through the village, and she has nowhere to stay. And so this boy, who's now a young man, offers her a to be able to stay at his house that he's built. So she stays there, and the plan is for her to just stay until the storm passes, because there's another storm that's happening, and then continue on her way. But they fall in love, and they're in love, and madly in love. He loves her so much, and she decides to stay, and she's there for a long time. And they get married, and they have a child, and they have a like very happy life together. And then the man starts to get sick because of the winters are so hard on them. And so he's sick, and the boy, his son, comes to talk to him, and he says there are stories that he hears that there's a winter witch, that when it's snowing so bad it means the witch is punishing the village and that sort of thing. And so the little boy, or I mean the man, the father, who was the little boy who promised not to speak of the witch, told him the story about what happened to him on the mountain when he was a boy. He told that story because he wanted to point out that even this snow witch could have some bit of kindness in her because she had mercy on him and let him live. So somewhere within that cold winter witch, there was some bit of kindness. And so that was the lesson that he was teaching the boys, that everybody has kindness in their hearts to some degree. Sometimes they don't show it, sometimes they're confused and they have periods where they seem to be bad, but everybody is good at some deep inside. And so the little boy runs off, and his wife comes in to tend to him and see how he's doing. And they're talking about how beautiful she is. And then we discover that the wife that he's had all of these years that he has had a son with is really the witch. And she is like, you broke your promise to me, and now you must be punished. But because you taught your son that I had kindness in me, I will spare your life again, but you will be punished for the rest of your life. And how she punishes him is she leaves. So he lost his wife that he was so in love with. And she like leaves, and then when she leaves, the winters become milder, there's no more snowstorms, and he is left to raise his son. And he is very sad, but his life is spared, and he was able to teach his son a lesson about the nature of people. So it's a really good story. It's a really sweet and sad story, and it's interesting the way it's done, and the artwork is beautiful. So that's that. I would recommend picking up any of these stories from the Jim Henson's The Storyteller series. There usually are 4 in each series. There's witches, there are dragons, there are fairies, and they're tales from different cultures around the world done in comic book form. So that's that one. Eliana, do you want to do the last review? Hello?
Sure.
Hello?
Sure.
Did I lull you into a slumber?
No.
Okay.
I can do this.
Okay, do it.
Okay. So this one is comic book number 1 of Chewbacca, and it's a Star Wars series. Pretty much. Oh, also there is this. So in like also in like the movies, beginning of movies, they have this, and like love that part. I love it. But this is about a girl who is like I don't know. She didn't get like her father didn't pay a payment that he had between 2 people, and so they had to be like underground and enslaved and like doing work for like years and everything, which just doesn't sound like a good life. So the father tries, and he gets like a wagon or like a some type of cart thing, and like puts the child in it, and then like he pushes her away so that she is she escapes because there isn't room for both of them. And once that happens, she like is trying to find ways that she can like that people can help her, and she doesn't know what to do. And then she just starts running because these like the people who were like watching over them, making sure they didn't escape. They found out that like someone was missing, so they didn't start chasing her. And then all of a sudden, you get this picture of Chewbacca laying in like flowers or something like that, just chilling. And
like a Wookiee does.
yeah, like this, like that.
You really do be vibing though.
Yeah. And then he hears noises of like people screaming and stuff, and like the girl gets on this little thing, and she flies off, and Wookiee's trying to like repair his ship, and
that's right.
Then he has to go to like the village to gather some parts, and he doesn't have enough credits, so he has to come back, and then Wookiee gets mad, and the girl is like, I need you to spare him a part 2, and they're like, no, you can't because you stole it. And so then they get, that just happens. Then he goes to like this club place, a lot of people, and she goes and follows the Wookiee, and then she's like, hey, can you help me? I need help. She doesn't tell what, but like people are like her, like they need someone to help them escape something that happened. And then all of a sudden she just told, and the Wookiee's like, no at first. The Wookiee just says no. You can't see it, but that's what it looks like. The Wookiee says no, and then she tells the Wookiee what exactly is going on, and the Wookiee gets kind of mad about that. He doesn't like what the situation, and he agrees to help her. And that's him agreeing.
So he agrees to help her and her family and friends escape from being enslaved.
Yeah.
Doing manual labor.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll have to find out what happens in the next exciting episode of Chewbacca. Chewie. Well, I think that's it. Do you have anything else to add?
No.
Okay. Well, happy Easter
What about the comic book of the week?
Oh! The cover of the week! Oh, good thinking, Eliana. We almost forgot the cover of the week. I thought we were going to do a shorter version of this show, but I guess we're not. I talk too much. That's the problem. So, anyway, we have one last thing for you. We're going to show you the cover of the week. Today, we chose a cover that we reviewed. We reviewed the comic book, and the cover is so cool. We decided it would be the cover of the week, and we're just going to do one cover of the week, and we mutually picked one out. So this is the cover of the week. It's the Strayed cover number 3. I'm trying to get it on there. So this is the being that Lou has come in contact with. If you can see, there's Lou there, and the being is holding a ball of light. And it's all of these Strayed covers are really good. There's some variants too, but I like the just regular A covers the best, even better than the variants. So that's the cover. That's the cover of the week. All right, so that's it, unless you have anything else to add. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. I'm going to try to put something on the screen for this time. So there should be something that appears right here. That is something you it's a button to subscribe to our channel. And in front of Eliana, right about there, will be a link that you can click on to one of our previous videos. So if you haven't seen the other videos, you can click on that link and see it. So please like the video if you like it, share the video if you like it, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. That's it. See you next time.